Thanks so much for having me come to your conference, Community for All 2021. My message is living with autism and growing in faith. In my book, A Parent's Guide to Autism, Practical Advice, Biblical Wisdom, I share my complete story of my journey with autism. My journey began natural. I said my first word, mommy, at 9 months. And what I like to share is when I said my first word, mommy, at 9 months, I did it the day I was being water baptized. Any child who thinks they're being drowned is going to call out, mommy, mommy. But then over the next 8 months, I went through a time of regression. I went from being able to say mommy to only mum, mum. And I went from being able to have perfect eye contact to no eye contact. And my mom knew there was something drastically different between me and my brother Steve and Chuck. She immediately sent me to pediatrician. Pediatrician said, men are like fine wine, you got to give them time. That's good advice for a woman looking for a man, but it's bad advice for someone cognitively delayed. Women are like flowers, they blossom quickly. And my mom knew that time was the essence. She immediately got me in intense speech therapy, and I was in intense speech therapy all the way from age 2 to age 16. When I was 7 years old, my speech was so delayed that my brother Chuck would introduce me to people saying, you need to meet my brother Ron. I think he's from Norway. He'd have me talk, no one knew what I was saying, and he became an expert on Norwegian languages. When I was 7 years old, I began kindergarten, and my social ability, communication ability, and ability to learn was so cognitively delayed that experts wanted to label me emotionally impaired. My mom said it's not emotional, it's neurological. And if you can't tell me what's going on in my son's head, I'll get him tested and come back to you and tell you exactly what it is. She sent me to Henry Ford Hospital. They did testing and they came back to my mom and said, your son has autism. When she told the school experts that I had autism, they said, if your son has autism, he'll never read beyond the 7th grade level, he'll never attend college, never have meaningful relationships, and he'll never exceed in sports. And my mom was determined to prove the experts wrong. She quit her job as a full-time art teacher and became a full-time Ron teacher. And working with me using art, pre-ABA therapy, and social skill development, I was able to graduate from Oral Roberts University, undergrad degrees in psychology and theology, and a 3.9 grade point average. I went on to get my Master of Divinity with a perfect 4.0 grade point average. I got married on December 7th, 8 years ago, and having autism, I came in like a kamikaze, a whirlwind of fire, even getting married on the anniversary of Pearl Harbor. And in 2016, my beautiful daughter, Michaela Marie, was born. I went on to have 2 nationally published books. I got a 3rd nationally published book coming out April 2021, Views from the Spectrum. And none of this would have been possible without God's grace and power upon my life, my mom's and dad's unconditional love, and experts working with me to teach me those skills. I'm going to first talk about what my mom taught me. She believed in autism refined, not cured. I can't cough on you today and you get the autism flu. You could cough on someone, they could catch COVID, but not autism. Autism unrefined looks like this. You're walking on the hot black pavement, heading towards the ocean. All of a sudden you feel something sharp in your foot. You go down, you pick it up, it's a piece of glass. Someone was having Miller time, now you're having tetanus shot time. It's jagged, it's sharp. Autism unrefined for me was little ability to control my emotions. I had severe meltdowns. Autism unrefined for me was zero ability to filter what I'd say. If a thought came into my mind, I'd spew it out. My favorite autism unrefined incident happened in 1995. I was working at a car wash across the street from a university, and on the way to work, they announced on 97 won the ticket. Today, Wayne Fonts, the head coach of the Detroit Lions, was fired. He had the best running back all time in Barry Sanders, a great quarterback in Scott Mitchell's, and an unbelievable wide receiver in Herman Moore, and they didn't make the playoffs with the #1 offense. As I'm drying off the cars, who should appear there but Wayne Fonts and his white Jaguar. As I'm drying off his car, The young adults who work there all have pen and paper to get his autograph. I go in the back, I come back, I kid not, you look like this. Is that what I think it is, son? Is that a job application? I said, yes, Wayne Fonts. Today on 97 won the ticket. They announced that you were fired. If you would have been working at this car wash, you would have earned some defense. See that fly there? That's defense. And I said, I don't want you calling Marvin begging for a check every week when you can work here at the car wash. Needless to say, he drove out without saying a word. Now I'm going to talk about Autism Refined. Autism Refined is like this. You're off that black hot pavement. You're walking along the ocean. All of a sudden you feel something good. You pick it up. It's a piece of glass. It's been refined by something greater than self. It's been refined by the grace of God. It's been refined by ABA therapy. It's been refined by speech therapy, learning social skills. Now that piece of glass you don't throw out. You put it on your neck is jewelry. You put it on a wall is art. And my mom was determined to take my gifts and talents and refine them for God's glory. She was inspired by Proverbs 22:29. Do you see a man skilled in his labor? He was served before kings. He was not served before obscure men. And when I entered kindergarten, they had the two-teacher rule. You had one teacher in the back of the room, make sure you didn't go out the back room of the room. You had one in the front to make sure you didn't go out the front door. And my mom said to teachers, you're not educating my son, you're babysitting him. And if my son's in this education situation, the best he's going to be is bagging groceries. The best he's going to be is washing dishes. But my son has great gifts, talents, and they're going to be used for God's glory. And she started teaching me using art. She used my special interests. Most kids in the 80s, their interest was G.I. Joe or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Transformers, more than meets the eyes. Mine was a prairie dog named Prairie Pup. She used Prairie Pup to teach me social skills and to teach me how to read and how to write. She also used art. And the way she used art to teach me was, she noticed that when I wrote my name, I'd always write it backwards. So I not only had autism, I had dyslexia. And she'd have me draw beautiful pieces of artwork like these. And then share a story. And as I shared the story, she'd write it down. She'd have me write down those stories in the artwork. And within 2 years of using this ABA form, or using this art form of therapy, I went from having dyslexia to no dyslexia. And when I was in 4th grade, my teacher entered my artwork into a drawing contest. And in the 80s, they had this contest called the Detroit Edison Poster Contest. And their spokesperson for the Detroit Edison Poster Contest was Isaiah Thomas. And he'd say, look up. And the kid would look up and he said, but I don't see anything. Isaiah Thomas would say, good, there's no electrical wire. So what my poster showed is Prairie Pup working on building a fort with his squirrel friends. And one squirrel is about to hit a transmitter and cause an explosion. It says, look up, you don't want to become a furry fried friend. And I won the Detroit Edison Poster Contest, got to meet Isaiah Thomas. Something horrible happened beginning in 8th grade. Not only was I turning 16 in 8th grade and the only one driving, but Prairie Pup became the first prairie dog to be officially kicked out of the Rochester Hills public school system. I like to say thank God my interest wasn't a honey badger like you see here, because a honey badger you wouldn't be able to expel from school, because a honey badger is ferocious. I got my first honey badger on my honeymoon. First one I got, you could press his paw and every F-bomb in the book would come out. But I don't bring him because I don't want people to think I'm doing a live demonstration of a meltdown. And with me, one of the main struggles I had having autism was meltdowns. I'm going to share my favorite sensory issue situation I found myself in. When I was in 4th grade, I was in Cub Scouts. And my mom took me to a Cub Scout Halloween event, and they had a clown there with a red nose, red hair, white makeup, and a lamb puppet on his hand. And my mom knew that I had difficulty being able to focus in on things, and there would be over 200 people at this event. So she had me front and center for the clown. And the clown, knowing nothing about autism, but soon become an expert on autism, thought it'd be funny to take the hat off my head and put it on another kid's head and put it back on my head. He got the hat off my head and put it on another kid's head, and he was about to put it back when I did it. I grabbed that lamb puppet and I began to beat the living snot out of that clown. The red nose went away. The hair on the clown went like this. He started going like this. I continually beat him. And I went flying out of that room. I never became Cub Scout. I didn't become part of the wolf pack. I flew like an eagle. They didn't give me an eagle badge. They needed a new badge, a honey badger. And the next day, the Cub Scouts got together and met with my parents and said, if your son would do that to a clown, imagine what he'd do if he ever lost his temper at one of our children. And I officially became the first child to be kicked out of the Cub Scouts of America. My family finally came to an obstacle as I was growing in faith in my relationship to God that was beyond our own ability and would take the grace of God. My junior year of high school, I memorized over 2,000 Bible verses, word perfect. I currently have over 15,000 Bible verses memorized. I was on the track team. My relay team finished 12th in the state of Michigan. And on the way back from the track meet, Nate Clay, who was the anchor on our team, said to me and Coach Bud, next year we'd be the fastest relay team in the state of Michigan, but we won't have Ron on our relay team because he'll be past the age limit to compete in the state of Michigan under the Michigan High School Athletic Association. You see, I was held back in kindergarten, making me pass the age limit. And right then the Holy Spirit spoke to my heart and said, I will provide a way for you to run on the track team. And I told Coach Bud and Nate, I said, next year I'm going to run on the track team. We're going to run one of the fastest times in the state of Michigan. My mom contacted the Michigan High School Athletic Association, and they said, there's no way we'll let your son run. Things seemed hopeless. She called all the major lawyers in the area. They all said it cost over $40,000, which my parents couldn't afford. And I said to my parents, somehow God's going to provide a way. I will run on that track team. I know in my heart. I heard God speak to me. And a week before the season began, I got home from a 5-mile run. That summer I ran over 500 miles to prepare to be on the track team and prepare to do my best. And on the front page of Detroit Free Press was a young man named Craig Stanley. He was born May 1975, same month, same year as me. He was a track and cross country runner just as I was, and he had a learning disability, and the MHSA told him they wouldn't let him compete on the track team. My mom gave his mom a call, and we got together, and the first words out of his parents' mouth was, we've called all the lawyers, it costs over $40,000 for a lawsuit. And my mom said, we've called them and they got the same news. And I said, and we will run on the track team. God will provide a way. And my mom said, let's do a second article now announcing that there's 2 young men in the state of Michigan whose civil rights are being violated by the MHSA. That Wednesday, on the front page of the Detroit Free Press was an article about me and Craig Stanley, first page. That coming Sunday, I got water baptized to show my commitment to Christ. And when I came out of the water, the minister, knowing nothing about my situation with running or even about my life, looked at me and said, I saw something when you came out of that water. I saw the heavens split open, and I heard God clearly through his Holy Spirit speak to me, Joel 2:25. I repay the years the locust have eaten, the great locust, the young locust, the other locust, the locust swarm. He said there's something in your life, maybe a disability or something else, that ate away from your blessing in your life. But today, God's going to use that as a message that you're going to take to nations. And I got home, and the time I got water baptized was 9 a.m. And I see the answering machine, and it's blinking red. And I pressed the button, and up comes the time that the message came. It was exactly 9 a.m., right when I was coming out of the water. And it begins like this. Hi, my name's Rick Landell. I'm a young lawyer. I just got my PhD from Boston College. I have my law degree from the University of Michigan, and I want to take your case pro bono. All I need is your signature. Come on out and sign up. So I sign up. He takes my case. We run the second fastest time in the state of Michigan. I get full ride to go to college for track and cross country. The story doesn't end there. God blesses us so we can be a blessing. Genesis 12:1-3. The reason he chose Abraham was to make his covenant with him and show to the nations his blessing so he could be a blessing to others. Remember how I talked about writing a book, A Parent's Guide to Autism? When I wrote my book, I interviewed 40 of the top experts in the world who work in the autism field. One of the people I interviewed was a man named Gary Marison. And when I interviewed Gary Marison, he said this to me: Ron, I know you. And I'm going to tell you the ending of your book and the ending of your presentations when you present. You're going to tell the story of Anthony Sturgill. And this is how the story of Anthony goes. Anthony's parents, Ray and Rayanne, it's kind of like Raggedy Ann, Andy, their names, I guess, wanted to have children and were unable to have children. And they decided that they'd adopt a child who had disabilities and was rejected by the world but chosen by God. And they believed that love, acceptance, and the power of God, anything is possible. So they went to a foster home, and there was little Anthony sitting, flapping his hands on a couch. And they interpreted it, not knowing anything about autism, as that he wanted them to sit by them. And they sat by him and fell in love with him. And they went to the director and said, we want to adopt Anthony. The director said, we thought no one would ever adopt him. He has severe autism. His IQ is only 50, and he has very little ability to communicate, and he also has other health issues due to autism. And they said, we know God spoke to our hearts. We're going to adopt Anthony. So they adopt him. And his dad, Ray, is a huge sports fan, Rutgers University. And he tries different sports to help Anthony to develop skills. He tries soccer, and all the kids are out there having fun. There's little Anthony just walking around with his head down. Tries baseball. People are hitting line drives, and they're hitting Anthony, but he's just uninterested. When Anthony is 12 years old, his dad takes him to a Rutgers football game. They're playing the #1 team in the nation, and Jeremy Lin finds himself kicking for Rutgers with no time left on the clock. If he makes it, Rutgers wins. The team that's nationally ranked won't make it to the playoffs. And the guy does a repetitive behavior. He does 3 steps forward, 1 back, kicks, goes for the upright, they win. All the way home, all Anthony can say is, I want to be a football player, I want to be a football player, I want to be a football player. His dad says, well, with football, you could get injured. But little Anthony is undeterred. His dad works with him. His junior year of high school, Anthony makes the football team. They have a losing record. Anthony's senior year, tries out again for the football team. He makes the team. They have a losing record. Now Anthony, like me, having autism, is entitled to 1 more year under New Jersey school laws to be able to go to school. But the High School Athletics Association tells Anthony dad, we won't let him play on the football team. He's past the age limit. Anthony dad calls Gary Marison. Gary Marison says, let me look at the law books and see if there's a precedent case. And then he finds it. Sandison versus the MHSAA. So he takes Anthony's case. Anthony wins. Anthony finds himself in a state finals doing his repetitive behavior. 3 steps forward, 1 back, kick. It goes for the upright. They win a state championship. And all the while, he sees God's hand on his life. And I just want to encourage you today, with people with autism, realize that we have amazing gifts, we have millions of talents, but we also have disabilities and need help sometimes. Temple Grandin says it best, autism makes me different, not less. And I want to encourage you, when you meet people with autism, if you have a child with autism, always see the potential, see those gifts, and see God watering those gifts and helping those gifts produce fruit. Any fool can see an apple on a tree, but it takes vision, dedication to see a forest of apple seeds. And with me, my mom was able to use Prairie Pup. She was able to use the Honey Badger. She was able to use art to help me grow in faith and now be able to accomplish my dreams. Speaking around the country on autism, being able to minister to people and share the love of God. Thanks so much.